finally doing June's reading, and I know I'm late, and I'm really sorry about that. June was hard for me to wrap my head around, and I could not energetically connect to June. And it really bothered me because when you do this type of work, you have to connect to the energy. And I just couldn't connect to it. And I don't know why. And I sat for a week trying to connect to June's energy. And then it hit me. Probably about, I think yesterday. June is the month before we hit eclipse season. And last year's eclipse absolutely abolished my life. It changed everything. It was the most gigantic deal breaker in my life that I have yet to date ever experienced. And now we're going to go through the next dose of them. So July, we're going to have a new moon, partial solar eclipse in Cancer. July, we're going to have a full moon, total eclipse, lunar eclipse in Aquarius. And then in August, we're going to have a new moon, solar partial eclipse in Leo. And all of those signs are very personal signs for me. So I feel like my body does what it does when it doesn't like conflict. It tried to avoid facing June. When you have a Gemini rising or any sort of Gemini moon, a Gemini sun, when energy is overwhelming, when people are overwhelming, when situations are overwhelming, they go the opposite direction. There's the duality of your Geminis. And I have a Gemini rising, so I didn't want to face it, I think, on an unconscious level. And that brings us to what June is really about, is this intense feeling, this retrograde feeling. We start out June with Pluto in Capricorn in retrograde still. And we have Jupiter and Scorpio in retrograde, but 2 more retrogrades happen in June. We have a Mars retrograde, and we have a Neptune in Pisces retrograde. And I did what all good Pisces do. I have some pretty predominant Pisces placements, and I have a lot of life. My karmic lesson is in Pisces, so I avoid any sort of things energetically that are pulling at me on an unconscious level. And I do this, excuse me, just automatically. And I have no control over how I do it. I just energetically don't want to bond with it, and so I look the other way, or I deny it, or I avoid it, or I distract myself. And it got me thinking about, sorry, I just have this frog in my throat. It got me thinking about June and the commitment that we're going to have in June to relax and take some downtime as we energetically try to prepare for July and August. I'm just going to run through June's events, some of the main ones, and then we'll talk in more detail about just the general energy of that month and the way that I'm interpreting it. June 12th, Mercury moves into Cancer. And listen to that water roar when I said that. Listen to that water have a voice. Your emotions want to have a voice. They want to take center stage in your thoughts. And listen to it. It's demanding it here. It's been quiet until I said that. Water is a purifying energy, so it can purify your thoughts. But it is a demanding energy. Water is a very powerful energy to experience. And as you can hear it, it's demanding to be heard. Your emotions, your thoughts about how you feel. You want to be understood emotionally. And it is going to be, maybe for some of you, a very intense emotional experience, or you may impact somebody emotionally. Obviously, listen to these waves. On June 13th, we have a new moon in Gemini, and Venus enters Leo. And that new moon in Gemini has some talking to do too. Anytime you get Gemini energy and your thoughts are taking center stage combined with that Cancer feeling. And the way that you want to be understood and the communication, you could be emotionally overwhelming people, or people could be emotionally overwhelming you. And listen, when I start talking about those emotions again, these waves start kicking in once again. Funny. I'm so at one with water energy, it's not even funny. That's why I always do my readings by water. They clear me, they purify my thoughts, they set me right. Okay, I'll let you talk for a while. What's bothering you that you deny, that is somewhere deeply suppressed? It's going to come up this month. Is it a home and family situation? Is it a desire to live somewhere specifically that emotionally keeps you plugged in and charged? And there's going to be some conversations about that need to change things, and suddenly your environment becomes very specifically emphasized, probably in June, because as you build up to July, something's going to change. Those little bitty waves are creating all that sound. I love nature. June 18th is a big day, and we're going to go into detail about June 18th. I totally feel June 18th when I processed it, and I think that that's why I kind of derailed a little bit on a subconscious level. We're going to have Saturn in Capricorn, which is in retrograde, in an exact quincunx with a North Node in Leo, and Pisces on that same day will go into retrograde. So there's some energy for you. You've got karma, and you've got the cumulative energy of your life up to this point, both in retrograde, both dipping you into your past and pulling things out of your past. Maybe the wisdom of some life lesson, maybe the wisdom that you've attained through some extreme life experience that has taught you to slow down and to look at it as a whole and see how that energy has been impacting you for years and years and years, maybe. And probably back to your roots, if we're talking about that Venus in Cancer energy, we're talking about this is diving deep into the way that, into our foundations, into our structures, into the way that we find stability, into the way that we find reliability in our lives. That need for shelter, that need to belong somewhere, that's going to come up. Where do you not belong? Where in the past have you felt like there was some instability, and why is it so important and being emphasized right now? Look around you. Look at your past. Look at the cumulative life lessons that you've learned up to this point in your life, and then tie all of that together. This is a very deep thinking month. When I think of this month, I think of the Hermit card. And that need to recoil. Recoil came to my mind this morning as I was getting ready for this video, so I looked up the definition of recoil. And it is a sudden change that makes you pull back. What's changed? What's been too intense for you to deal with? What's the need to pull back and think through right now? And take the time and energetically kind of be a little bit of a lonesome dove in this energy. Maybe you need to talk about it. Maybe one of the things that's going to come up during that new moon that you're going to have on the same day that Venus moves into Leo is of some sort of dramatic event that pulls this out and brings it out to where you can't bury it anymore. You can't suppress it. It just explodes and comes out in some sort of dramatic fashion, and it demands to be heard and seen. We can't suppress things forever. That's why intermittently throughout your entire life, you will experience times where your deepest thoughts will re-emerge in your life, and they will demand to be seen, and they need to be worked out of you, and they need to be released. They need to be set free, and you need to be set free from those experiences, those karmic lessons, those life experiences that keep somehow coming up as a theme in your life. Those need to go away, right? And the only way we can do that is face the demon. I told my daughter a story. That's this whole Jupiter, Scorpio, and retrograde experience, and it's very relevant. That's a keyword. I think during June, relevant. What's relevant? What's the most relevant in your life? Your thoughts right now. Well, what was the most relevant, and we're in my thoughts right now, is the demon that always is lurking around in my life, which is fear. He's always hiding and sneaking around and in little corners of me. And he comes out at the most bizarre times and pokes his little head, but I want to fight him. I want to pull him out of that freaking corner, and I want to stand toe to toe, and I want to fight him. Now that's where all the fire energy is going to start coming into this story. You're done with something having control, something being suppressed, something so embedded and so ingrained in you, probably from early childhood, probably from some sort of mothering or some sort of nurturing spirit in your life, somebody that was of great significance to you, that really formulated you. Or maybe it was the absence of that person. You never ever became completely formed by a nurturing and loving entity. And it's coming up right now. Whatever that is, whatever that relevant thing is, that sneaky little guy that's always just lurking around and coming out when you can't deal with it, right? When you don't have the time. Well, you have the time. June's the month before we have all these eclipses. And I'm glad that the solar eclipses that we have are partial. I can't handle another total solar eclipse, but we have a total lunar eclipse. And so that's an emotional situation. Did you hear how angry those waves got? They were loud. They wanted to speak. Your emotional situations are demanding to be center stage right now, and that's never really fun to process us on an emotional level. It's not fun. I don't feel like June is going to be like this great big month of fun. I feel like June is going to make you look at your life and look and see where you need some balance in the duality of this month. June 20th, we have Neptune in Pisces goes into an exact trine with Mercury in Cancer, and that's the day before the summer solstice on the northern hemisphere. June 21st, we have the summer solstice. That's the longest day, and that's when the sun moves into Cancer. We have on June 26th, we have Mars in Aquarius. That's when it goes retrograde, guys. And then we have a full moon on the 27th in Capricorn. And then on the 28th, we have Mercury moves into Leo. Talk about a big, like, ending right before we go into July, which is very action-packed. It's very fire-based. It's very intense to feel, right? It's a lot of dramatic energy. It's a lot of, you have to center yourself when you feel that Leo energy, when that sun arises, when what really means the most to you is what you center yourself on. So that's July. But June is the roots. What built you? Where's your, what do you consider your foundation? Is it stable? Is it solid? Is it unrecognizable? Are you just building a new secure foundation, or is it an existing foundation? Maybe it's a family, maybe it's somebody of authority in your life, maybe it's somebody of like your father, that somebody nice, strong, stable, strong masculine energy. This month I thought a lot about masculine and feminine energy trying to compete a little bit. I felt that a lot. And the air could be that energy to want to talk about that. You know, there's at times where you need to be able to like be feminine and be real about what you're feeling, because to attach to your feelings, Cancer, what is really hard about Cancer energy, where a lot of people don't like to feel Cancer energy. A lot of people make a Cancer energy a negative astrological sign, is because it stands for instability. It stands for the irregularity, the indifference in our emotional states. People don't want to face that. We want to think that we are in control of our emotional states at all times, and that's what you feel like your whole life is about, is controlling you on an emotional level. You don't understand that it is experiencing life on an emotional level that is why we exist. That is what sets us apart in this universe as human beings, is this emotional connection to everything. I did write down some things as the week I was in reflection this week, and I thought I need to do this slowly. Something was engaging me to process this slowly, probably because I'm very, very in tune with Uranus and Taurus energy. And so there's a lot, Taurians are very precise in their forward energy, and so maybe the universe was asking me to kind of step it all back when this reading and kind of take this, process this slowly. It's not about that deadline, it's about getting it right, maybe. And understanding the way that water energies work, I think, is going to be super important. This is a very watery month. It's the water is the underlying issue. The emotional situation is the underlying issue in this month. So the way that I look at Cancer energy is the flow that you have on an energetic level, like in an emotional flow, the emotional tides. You're really caught up in the intensity of water and the way it like your emotions and the way they make you feel. So they can make you feel up or down, or up and down, or they can make you feel, they can have a lot of power. Okay, sorry, I had to calm down my dog. A person walked by with a dog and he was like, I gotta have it. So I had to calm him down. Scorpio is the depth that we feel in energy, the depth that we feel on an emotional level, where the darkest and the most suppressed, the deepest recesses of us lie on an emotional level. And then Pisces is the cumulative energy, where the peace comes from, where you process this and create something and manifest something on an emotional level, something positive from the completion of water energy. And I thought that was really important for you to understand, because as you're processing the retrograde, it can feel like, I feel like there's going to be a couple ways it's going to go. It's either going to be, you're going to fall backwards and fall into some really bad habitual ways to cope and process your emotional states. Addiction could start to creep in again if you guys have been doing really good, and then all of a sudden you may just energetically kind of feel like you might slip a little bit because of this emotional time, this deeply emotional time. And then there's a way that you could create something absolutely magical from these revelations if you take the time, if you nurture yourself, if you emotionally allow yourself to process things. You don't put yourself out there. You've used June as a month to just relax before you have to start processing forward dramatic energy, right? You've got to start processing. To me, forward energy is always an eclipse season. That's you have to move forward energetically on an emotional level, and what you center your life around, whether you want to or not. You don't get choices. Like I said, I'm glad that the sun is partial, so that because our self is so sensitive right now. I believe that our self needs a little time off. We don't need to work so hard at processing our sense of self. But then on an energetic level, we're going to be emotionally, what's going to be emotionally emphasized, and what could dramatically change is the way that you emotionally respond to energetic challenges. The challenges of moving forward, whether you want to or not, the shoves of the universe, right? How do we emotionally adhere to that challenge without falling into poor coping methods and wanting to run away, wanting to avoid, wanting to deny the fact that you are emotionally responding to something pretty difficult or challenging or even new? Can challenge those comfort zones. And I feel like that's a lot of this energy, is just where are we comfortable, where it is going to emotionally engage you. And when you become emotionally engaged in things, I think that is where motivation really truly becomes center stage, in your thoughts, in what you talk about, in the way that you emotionally and physically respond. That's all a big part of this. I think talking through what happened in May might be advisable, because some big things were revealed in May. I'm not going to say anything, but some people have learned the price of words and the price of what it is to have an opinion, a strong and opposing opinion. Some people it's cost their careers. Some people it's put them in a bind. Some people may not truly recover, but then that's where wisdom comes from. It's just that energetic alignment with what just happened. They were just words. I was just talking. I was just telling a joke. I was just, I was just voicing my opinion, and it turned into a emotional response. Well, that's what June's about, is processing all of that on an emotional level and talking about it and trying to get people to energetically and emotionally connect with what you were trying to do, what you were trying to say, what you were trying to communicate. on any level. Because that's all the water energy that's coming out of this. I mean, in the past, have you been through the same lesson before? And is this just the final exam in that lesson? Maybe this is what it took. It took a dramatic and fire-based energy to get you to understand that words are very powerful and hold a great significance in this world. This is a time that you find a new approach and start to engage emotionally. I want you guys to connect emotionally during this month, because you have to get ready for July and August. You have to really be in tune with what you feel on an emotional level and stop denying what you feel on an emotional level. So it can be very hard for us to really connect to our emotions because they're so strong to feel. Oh my gosh, what is that out there? I think it's interesting that by the time Mercury moves into Leo, right before that we have that Cancer full moon, and the opposing energy is like at that cumulative end of your thoughts. So energetically, this has a lot to do with major figureheads in your life, people that you look up to, authority figures, people that hold your life kind of in their hands. They make the decisions, the structures, the rules that you follow, the way that you perform, the way that you climb the ladder, the way that you, the rules you follow, I think, and the boundaries of those rules are all things you're going to face during this month, this full moon, at the time that we have like a really full emotional experience with our comfort zones, with our stability, with our reliability, with the things that make us stand strong, you know, keep our feet firmly planted on the ground, the things that I know that there's a few basic things in life as a Cancer energy that I just adore, because I'm a Leo on the cusp of Cancer, but all my primary degrees are in Cancer. And one of the things that is really important to me at all times is just my home. It's just where I recharge, right? I think that's what's going to come up, just because at this time we have Mars going to go into retrograde, is that the inertia that we feel. And in this state of inertia, now understand, when Mars goes into retrograde, our inertia goes down. So we become a little bit more submissive in that state, a little bit more energetically disconnected. And I think we focus a little bit more on ourselves. But I feel like on an external level, there's a lot going on that's being emphasized, and so that could definitely affect our ability to like have enough strength to endure things. And I'm not saying that this is a difficult month. I'm just saying that if you're really a person that gets charged and fired and you always want to move forward and you're energetically in a space where you want results and you want them right now, June's just not the month for that. I think what June is the month for, is this need to reflect and turn inward, to get down to what you're afraid of, really deeply afraid of, because everybody's afraid of something. And for some people, the crazy part is you're afraid of success. You're afraid that you can successfully move on, find that new person in your life, you know, maybe find that new job that takes you away from something where you have an established comfort zone. And I just feel really bad about that, because energetically that's a tough place to be, because and this could be all what is below all the excuses, you know, what is really at the heart of all of that stuff is like, what's really stopping you from centering your life around positivity, is, you know, like on an energetic level. And this could be something that's so deep that you don't even know what it is. I just think that control issues are going to be really intense in June, because some of you who are working so hard to make positive changes and develop positive coping methods and to energetically like change your circumstances are going to find it really super difficult to like connect with this month, because it's going to ask you to pull all that back and reflect and slow down and be like, okay, it's time to look at things and really make an absolute plan, set absolute goals. And where do you find that you can't do that? Where do you find that you don't have the discipline to stick to your goals or energetically slow down enough to even set proper goals, to budget your time, to put yourself on a budget, to really emphasize the intellectual part of planning, you know? Take all your life experience and to energetically put it down on paper and to really face it all. I think some of you are not doing what it takes to succeed, or somehow you're standing in your own way. It could boil down to just energetically what you've always been told about yourself. Maybe you have a learning disability and everybody's just programmed you to believe that you are limited. Maybe people have told you that you're just not pretty enough to go out and find a partner and to settle down, and, you know, or that you are just energetically, you know, you're not where you should be in order to achieve the next level, that next, you know, like you walk up that next stair in your goal. Like maybe you are standing in your way, you're making that obstacle look too big. And maybe it doesn't have anything to do with that at all. I think we're rushing too much. We're not taking our time right now. So this is what I love about the universe. Energetically, this month could look like a bummer, but like for me, sometimes you just need to slow down and take a deep breath and like have the time to make a plan, have the time to set aside money, have the time to talk it all through, have the time to think it all through, consider multiple sources, go to people who are authorities in making those types of decisions in those types of careers, those types of aspirations, who have done it successfully in the past. Energetically, this is the month for that, which is super great, because we can't be forward all the time. We make a lot of stupid decisions when it's just forward, forward, forward all the time. And once we hit Leo season, it's just going to get that way, because we have some pretty intense energy coming. I think we're getting way too serious energetically. I know that everybody has been on a journey and everybody is wondering when the transformation is going to be over, and everybody is saying, I don't get it. Like when do we finally get to there? The reality is we never do. We are constantly and energetically always evolving. Even when our bodies decline and fail us, our soul is in evolution. That's why you go through your second Saturn return when you hit your, what, 50s? Early 50s? Is because your soul starts to evolve. Even if your body can't keep up. I think inertia is just like this really cool word, this word that I looked up, and I just want to emphasize it. It says a property of matter by which energy is continuous in its existing state of rest, or uniform motion is a straight line, unless that state is changed by an extreme external force, which will be July. So right now we're the energetic straight line. There's a nice beam of energy, positive energy, in taking time and not creating any sort of ruckus in your life. And emotionally allowing yourself to submit and to really get in touch with yourself, in touch how you feel, because feelings make us do a lot of crazy things. Emotions make us do a lot of crazy things. And we want to make sure that our emotions have had a chance to heal and calm down and be heard. How many of you guys take the time to sit there and energetically connect with you on an emotional level? Be honest with yourself. If you are feeling like you need that cigarette, or you need that piece of food, or you need that sweet thing, or you need to drink, or you need to smoke pot, or whatever it is, what triggered you to do that, and write it down and face that emotional state that made you want to do something self-destructive, because you don't got time for that anymore. You're like energetically evolving, and you can't have these obstacles. You can't have that little dark little demon just sneaking around in all the corners of your recesses and your subconscious and causing all kinds of chaos. You have to face it. You have to see what it has to say. And why is it present in your life? Why did you have to meet this demon? What was the goal? What was the karmic point? That's going to come up during this time. And I'm going to go into this in great detail as we go through the month and as we deal with all of these. But I'm going to leave it here because this has been a very long video. And I just hope all of you have a lovely June and submit a little.